Right, hello. Today we're going to be doing a charcoal sketch of water and trees. We're going to be using our values. So this is the picture that we're going to be using. There's our picture we're going to be using. This photograph was taken by one of my students' family members. It's a very nice reference for your values, learning your values with charcoal. So that's the picture that we're going to be using. I've done a couple of experiments. This was my first experiment. Now you'll see that I did a value chart first, so that when you use a value chart you can see, so if we look at the actual picture, we can say, okay, so value 1 would be the tree there. Everywhere that we see the different values, we use those values. That helps us get the depth. So that helps us because we tend to, as artists, we tend to be afraid of the dark. So here you can see that we use very dark areas in it, and that's where that value chart comes in. So you'll see that the contrasts are quite severe in some places and the contrasts are more subtle in some places. So our darkest value is 1 and our lightest value is 6. I did another experiment afterwards. This is the experiment that I did afterwards. So this is a more of a completed one. Still not 100% perfect, but as we know as artists, the more we play, the better we become. But you can see where we've done all our values and we've brought in our values into it. It doesn't have to look exactly like the photograph. Let me just show you the photograph again. So it doesn't have to look. We are creative and we want to do our own creative spin on it. Okay, the tools that we're going to be using today, we're going to be using our charcoal stick. I prefer the willow. So that's our charcoal pieces. We've got a charcoal pencil, preferably dark and soft. Dark generally means softer. Some charcoal sticks are different colors. Some of them are soft, hard, medium, etc. We're going to use the dark, which is a soft. We've got our putty eraser. We've got our smudging stick or paper stump. We've got our electric eraser. And we've got a white pencil, pastel pencil or charcoal pencil. This is a Pitt pencil, Faber-Castell. Okay, so those are the tools that we're going to be using today. So we're going to start off. Because there's more of the darker values in our picture, which you can see, we're going to start off by doing our page. We're going to work out on our horizon line, then we'll work in the top in the trees, and then we'll work in the water. So what we're going to start with, I'm just going to put my picture here so I can see it. So what we're going to start off with, we're going to start, you always break off, I prefer to break off a piece of charcoal so I can use the sides, top, the sides and the top if I need to. So I'm going to work out more or less where is my horizon line, and I'm going to place my horizon line. So you'll see it's generally 2/3. Mine's a little bit more than 1/3. Okay, so at the top here, so what we're going to first do is we're going to apply the charcoal and then we're going to rub it in. As I say, if you don't want to use your fingers, you're welcome to use a tissue. It does rub off your fingers quite easily, and you'll see I've actually got a cardboard board underneath, so it gives a little bit of a texture. So I'm starting my texture already. As I say, we're going to do our own experiment with this. We're not going to do it exactly like that. So you can see here, just because of my texture at the background, the smoother the texture, the smoother the board. I've got a nice tree effect already. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is with my charcoal, I'm going to plan where everything is. So if my tree comes down here, I'm going to plan that that's where my tree comes to. Okay. Then I'm going to see that, let me just see if I can get this into the picture so you can see what I'm doing. So that's my tree coming around there. And as I say, because I'm doing this quickly, I'm not doing it perfectly. So just bear with me. It's just to show the techniques and how it's done. Then there's a big tree in the corner there, so we can put that in. Then there's a branch coming out there. And some branches. So this is just our planning stage. We're probably going to get rid of it as we're working. There's another tree there. Now I can see in this little area here there's a darker area, so I'm going to make that area a bit darker. There's a darker area there and there's a darker area there. Okay, so you'll see that I'm not overworking it. If you want your charcoal, if you rub very hard, you'll see it goes back to the light color. So you can either rub very lightly or you can just tap to get just to smooth out a bit. Okay, so there we have. Using my fingers just to get, so you'll see now we're pushing it back into the background. So that's our planning stages. So now we have our background base of our tree coming through, etc. So now what we're going to do now is we're actually going to put some dark in some areas and some light. So if I have a look at the trees here, There's a darker area there, so I'll bring that darker area. You'll see I just tap with my finger. Okay, that's lighter. There's a little bit of a darker area there. Because of the recording, I'm not putting as much detail as I usually would. But once you get to the end and you've sprayed it, then you can put your other coat over it. So from here, what I can do is now is I can see that where I need to start bringing in my light colors, there's a little bit of a dark area. So I'm not looking at trees, I'm actually looking at patterns. So if you see what I've done here is I've brought in that pattern. Here I've brought in a pattern. So there's no actual, I'm drawing a tree. We're looking at our positive and our negatives, our light and our dark, and we're still using our grading grid for this. I'm just going to put the grading grid upside down here so maybe you can see it there. So I'm still using my grading grid. You'll see I have not got as dark as that yet. That we do afterwards. This is our medium base. So from here what we can do is we can take our putty eraser. The more you rub it, the more warm it is, the more charcoal it takes off. So now we can start just doing our planning of where our trees are going to be. So if we do like little daps and change the shape of our putty eraser, we can make it pointy, we can make it long. And we bring out our putty eraser. There's a little bit of a light area there. You'll see that it takes the charcoal off. Okay. There's a little white piece there. Okay, so now we've got our basic areas for our trees. So now we can go to our putty, our electric eraser. The beauty of the electric eraser is it spins. So as you're using it, you don't have to rub. So basically you're just touching and you're getting those little areas, and you can use it as a drawing tool. So you can get those sort of areas of the charcoal showing through to make it look like little trees. Okay, so there we have like tree area there. This comes down here, so we can bring some down. Mine's not very sharp at the moment. If you want to do your putty eraser sharper, you can, because that's what your little eraser inside looks like. What you can do is if you take a knife and you just cut that piece off and then you use the edges to make it a sharper area, then you can have a sharper line. This electric eraser also works very well when doing portraits and hair, to bring out highlights, etc. Okay, so this is just our base that we're doing. And then there's some nice areas coming down this area here. Some areas there. So as you can see, I'm almost bouncing my eraser off the paper to get that effect. So I'm not rubbing. While it's spinning, I'm just touching. So let's go here. There's some light there. And I'm just going to do some light in this area here. And then I will show you how the dark area is going. Okay, so... Oops. Let's take it out the way. So by putting my light on this side, you'll see what I'm doing is I'm planning for my positive and my negative. So we're looking at positive and negative shapes. In this case, if I'm doing the trees, this branch is my negative. And if I'm doing the branch, then this space is my negative. So when I'm drawing and I'm trying to get my proportions and everything right, I often look at my positive and my negative shapes to get the drawing perfect or in the right proportion, shape, direction, etc. Okay, so let's say we've done that there. Okay, so now that we've got to that stage, what I can do now is I can take my charcoal pencil and I can start bringing in. So if this tree is much darker, you'll see that your charcoal pencil goes much darker. And I can sort of put in my darker areas now. There's a darker branch. You'll see that on this side I've left it light, that side I've left it dark. That's because our light is hitting from that side. So we've got the two variants in color. And here we've got our other branch coming through here. And then, as I say, I'm not going to sit here and do every branch perfectly. I'm just going to put in my own little branches here and there. When I'm doing branches, you'll see that I never do, let me just do it on here, I'll never do a full line, and I'll never draw my branches like that. I always sketch my branches because the light is going to catch it in certain areas. A branch is very, very seldom is completely straight. The light will catch in certain areas in nature, and then you won't actually see those branches. So it makes it look a little bit more natural when you do it that way. So let's just put in a little bit of dark here. So you'll see that by putting the dark on that side, which will be my value 1, then this piece of this branch coming down will be a value 3. So we're working with our values, our variance of our values. So if I'm working here, and then I can just scribble and scratch so that the white stays, so I look like I've still got those little leaves and stuff coming down. I'm going to put some more there. Okay, so now you can see we've got our different values coming through. Okay, and I'm doing squiggle lines because I don't want my tree to be perfect. Then what I can do is I can take my putty eraser if I wanted to, and that area there I can actually just pull with my putty eraser, and I'll get a lighter area coming through. If I find that my line is a little bit sharp, I can either touch over with my finger or I can just rub it in. So there, this area here now, you can see you've got a natural feel. You don't have a line showing on that side of the tree. You don't want lines, you want shading. So if you want this part a little bit darker, so that shows, put a bit of dark. We can add a bit more light in here so that the leaves come through. Okay. So that, I'm going to leave you at that. I'm going to say let's get to that stage. You can work on that stage. And then we'll come back for session 2, where I'll do a little bit of this, and in session 2 we can continue with it. Thank you.